Everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Business Wine and Cheese, a lockdown edition. We are all very much in separate areas. We're trying something new today. We have a very good friend of ours, Andrew Morello, with us today. He is or was the first winner of the Australian Apprentice, and he is now the head of the business and development at the Entourage. Welcome, mate.
Welcome. Fantastic to be here. Great to see you, boys. So we're not seeing each other face to face, but I would have preferred to have done this face to face, definitely.
Yeah.
As you know.
We can do it again. Don't worry about that.
We might have to do a reunion at Coco's at the casino when it opens.
Very good. Very good. Mate, I'm feeling terrible today, so I'm not having any wine. So did you want to show us what wine you're getting stuck in?
Yep. So for those who are watching, I actually arrived in Sydney a couple of days ago, so I have to do my 14-day quarantine in a hotel in Camperdown, which is like, for those of you from Melbourne, it's like the Brunswick of Sydney. So it's just outside Sydney. And my team just dropped off over the weekend 4 bottles of Elephant in the Room Langhorne Creek. Stupendous Shiraz. It's not just any Shiraz, it's a stupendous Shiraz according to them. So that is what I am drinking today. So very disappointed to hear that my good friend Theo and Christian not actually drinking. I feel like I'm they say you should never drink alone, boys, so I'm just going to let you know that too.
I'm not sure what Christian's doing, mate, but I'd love to be drinking right now, but my head feels like it's about to explode, so I'm gonna opt out for that.
And Christian, I'm loving the Fidel Castro look.
You love it, yeah?
Yes.
Well, we're almost in the same sort of, like atmosphere
regime.
Right now.
Correct. You're in the same regime.
I guess you can call it that. So I'm trying to blend in.
That's right. That's
right. Yeah, so we'll virtually cheers you as you get stuck into that wine. But usually we like to kick off with a bit of an origin story. You can go as far back as you like, mate. Just sort of set the scene for us a little bit.
Yeah, so really glad to be on here today, guys. Obviously, something I'm very passionate about is entrepreneurialism and business, and utilizing business and entrepreneurialism to advance humanity and civilization. And I've been very lucky to have grown up in family business, as you gentlemen both know, but anyone who doesn't know me that's watching, I grew up in the service station game with my dad back in the back streets of Moonee Ponds, and then started a business at 14, 15 years old with another friend of ours, his mum, so Jesse Volpe, you better give him a mention, he'll love that. So his mum, Carol Espinoza, gave me my first government grant when I was 14, 15 to start a underage drug and alcohol-free youth events. Which that's where I met you gentlemen. So obviously we're still friends after 20 years. So something obviously turned out all right from that. And then pivoted into the property and finance sector when I turned 18 and had an illustrious career in that with Thompson Real Estate and Jellis Craig down in Melbourne, being a family business. And then was lucky enough, as mentioned earlier, to win the first ever Australian Apprentice with Mark Burris, and spent the last 10, 11 years now in Sydney. And then also 10, 11 years ago, meeting the great man, Mr. Jack DeLosa as well, and being a part of the inception of and conception of the Entourage, and taking a bigger piece in the business, and taking a bigger role over the last sort of year or two as the head of business development, and also working with the sort of leadership team to take the business national and international now. So business has been great, business has been great, but it's everything that's culminated up to this point in order for us to get to where we've gotten today.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about Entourage, because we've talked about it when I've been there a couple of times in Sydney, and we've met up. But tell me a little bit about it, because a lot of people, I guess, will want to know.
Yeah, great. So, it obviously initially started, it was funny, it's got a great story that it started at my brother's real estate office in Kensington, now the Jellis Craig offices, and also my office with Mark Burris up at Yellow Brick Road. And we used to run Melbourne and Sydney workshops literally out of my offices. And now the business has grown to there's 435,000 people in our community, that whether they've attended an event or whether they're part of one of our programs. We've had 3,500 businesses go through our programs. We've helped them build and create over $2 billion in revenue, and we've worked across about 150 different industries. One of the big, they're all sort of self-employed entrepreneurial people. One of the big shifts that we made about 1.5 2 years ago when I took the leadership role was to start now working in at full advisory, corporate advisory. So working with such companies as McDonald's and Virgin Australia before, obviously everything's happened with them, and all of the major universities now. So really trying to try and bring a balance between what now is, in my opinion, intrapreneurialism as much as entrepreneurialism. So entrepreneurialism was the buzzword going back 10 years ago. Now intrapreneurialism seems to be the flavor of the month, but I think it's here to stay. Effectively, it's a little bit similar to what you guys were in the early days, where you were a business within a business and you use other companies' products and services as well, but become champions in providing that service. And so now we're really stepping into that entrepreneurial space and trying to promote people to find their best self and obviously work on their best self through their business or whatever they can contribute.
Great. So talking of working on your best self, we were chatting a little bit earlier when we were sort of discussing what, you were asking how these things usually go. And I was talking about, a really popular or really relevant topic at the moment around resilience. And, we've had very privileged lives, you and I, but at the same time, we're the sort of people that don't allow ourselves to, we challenge ourselves often enough to have built our own resilience along the way.
Yes.
People that grow up with adversity and just naturally through life circumstances have things that are hard more often than not. Not everyone, but naturally most of those people usually have built up a stronger resilience. Talk a little bit through, what has been instilled in you and what you've done over time to be able to deal with what we're going through at the moment. I know you've had some personal things happen during this time as well to make it even harder.
Yeah, it's a really good point and something I'm very passionate about in helping people get through challenging life experiences. It's interesting as a child, you don't realize the things that you're absorbing, right? So anyone who's got children, they should really, and they're watching this, it's really, really important to be setting that great example. And I know, Theo, you're a great dad, and Bree always tells me how amazing you are with your boys. But anyone who's got children, it's really, really important to be setting that example around that, human beings effectively have proven time and time again after thousands and thousands of years that they can bear the unbearable. And that's really important to understand that, one, you can bear the unbearable. Number two is that absorbing those things that are happening to you when you're younger and the things that you're exposed to. And it's interesting, not that I'm, as you guys know, but for anyone watching, I'm not overly religious anymore. I grew up going to a Catholic school, but I did year 11 and 12. I did religion. It was mandatory being at a Christian Brothers school, and I actually relished in it, not for the religious side of it, but rather the spiritual and the consciousness awakening that it actually began this path that I was on from a consciousness point of view, and also from a emotional intelligence point of view. And it was interesting. My year 11 or year 12 essay for VCE, I actually wrote about the C.S. Lewis, who was the author of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and the juxtapositioning and the parallels and the examples that he uses in that. And there's something very famous that he talks about in his literature, is that challenging life experiences actually produce these pieces of gold or platinum in our lives, or these.
Was that like a trigger point for you in your life? Was that like an eye-opening?
Christian, it's a valid point that I don't think I realised it at the time, but as I then spent the time, money, energy, and effort in going down that path, and as you guys know, I've gone and summited Mount Kinabalu in Borneo. I've done the Kokoda Trail. I've gone and stayed in Buddhist monasteries. Once you start going on that journey, you realise that when I was 15, 16, all I wanted to do is, you remember, there was just run parties and have a good time. But subconsciously, I was absorbing some of that stuff. And I think there's a lesson in that now. You don't need to be a kid anymore. I think it's a matter of have an open heart and an open mind to actually go, yes, all right, I'm a business person, whether you're working in the corporate sector, whether you're self-employed, whether you're small to medium business, whether you're big business, whatever it might be. But understanding that for true success and true to actually be able to identify great opportunities, there needs to be something more than just, okay, this is going to make me money, and it's not. And the other thing is as well, when you start making money, I think, you know, I had this discussion the other day with a friend that I think money only enhances who you are. If you're a good person and you make money, then you can go and build orphanages in Cambodia. You can go and, you know, do these, you know, Kokoda costs you 10, 15, 20 grand to do, really, like between all the pre-work and the equipment and everything. So it puts you in a position to be able to go and have these, you know, eye-opening experiences, as you talked about, Christian, there. So, you know, was it an eye-opening experience at the time? I think it's an ongoing journey. And anyone who has the hubris or arrogance to think that they've got all their shit together is just naive to the real realities of life.
I think there are moments in time that sort of help you achieve your persona, you know, your inner self.
So a defining moment, you reckon?
Yeah, a defining moment in there. Like I said, I didn't think I had it in myself to actually run businesses. But looking back now that I listen to you, looking back at those times when I was in high school or studying early, you know, when I did my IT degree and I was doing things within the business, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of can see now how I was moving towards that goal where I am right now. You know, I always had some sort of element in me to actually be, I don't like to use that word entrepreneurial, but just more just taking a risk, you know,
taking a risk, correct.
Give it a really, really go. And I always hear this term, I go, give it an Aussie, like the Aussie, giving it a go, you know.
Give it a crack.
That's give it a crack. That's
give it a crack. Give it a crack.
You know, so right. I was like, you know, just go for it, man. Who cares? You know, just, you know, what's the worst that can happen? You know, and you're probably aware, I've come from a South America, it's my background, and down there wasn't a lot of opportunities anyway. You know, understand? And I'm here like, what's the worst that can happen?
Correct.
But
we
what's
live in a great country
that can happen? Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's interesting you talk about, you know, and obviously, you know, Theo and I, I'm first generation Australian, you're second generation Theo, but Christian, like you were a new Australian when you came here, right? So like, it is a big challenge. And coming from, you know, and this is a good conversation to have culturally. I think depending on what culture you've come from, you know, often you're told to go become the accountant or go do an IT degree or go and become a doctor or a lawyer because it's safe, right? And don't have a crack because you're going to disgrace your family. Don't have a crack because you're going to disgrace, you know, yourself. And I think the reality now is that more than ever, I think now this COVID thing has identified that entrepreneurialism is what will get us out of this hole. Like, it's not going to be big business. Like, you know, as you guys know, I'm a big Alan Joyce and Qantas fan. But the reality is you've got a multi-billion-dollar company who is going to really struggle to get through it. They will get through it because they've got a great CEO at the helm, and it's a quintessential Australian brand. But you know, more than ever, I think small to medium business and entrepreneurialism or being a business owner is going to become more and more relative and more important over the next 5 to 10 years to get us out of this slump and this economic recession that we're now in because of this pandemic.
Yeah, I think people need to give it a crack.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I think people need to just, if it doesn't work out, maybe something else will come from it. Because sometimes you go, I'm going to do this great business idea, but that might not work, but you might actually educate you to make another and give it another crack on something else.
Correct.
And then way it will then say, well, that wasn't for me, but this is now.
Yeah.
You know,
and on that, like, you know, I certainly, I think, you know, somebody that was having a meeting with me from Barcelona the other day, he said, oh, I Googled you. And, you know, I said, oh, geez, what came up? And the funny thing is he said, no, all good stuff. And I actually was, you know, I'm a big believer in business and in life to wear your heart on your sleeve. You know, my theory is it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of people, and I know my personality type, it's very polarizing. So I say to people generally 80% will love me, like to the point where they absolutely adore me and love me. 20% will hate me. But I don't mind that because the reality is I wear my heart on my sleeve. So it's like, at least they can never say, oh, he was talking shit or he's, you know, he was putting on a facade, because that's not my way, right? So like, the reality is I haven't had or nothing but successes. I've had a, you know, when you Google an illustrious property career doing over 1,000 transactions, and I've won auctioneering competitions. Yes, I won the Apprentice. Yes, I'm friends with these successful, in the terms of monetary, financial people. So, you know, large businessmen and women globally. But the reality is your true measure of your success, I'm not pissing your pocket, is you guys. Like, you know, Theo and I have been mates for over 20 years. And it's like, it comes a point where, you know, and, you know, Theo did mention before, and I suppose we'll rip the Band-Aid off. My mum passed away 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but people, even though we're in lockdown and it was COVID and people, you know, risked getting fines, they jumped in their car and they came and saw me. They donated $20,000 to Dementia Australia after when I put up a link. They sent probably $10,000, $10,000 to $20,000 worth of flowers. They sent probably $10,000 worth of food. Now, the reason that is true success. So I look at my mother, who maybe didn't have a illustrious business career, but I look at her and I go, okay, she's created, and not saying this arrogantly, but she's created 3 amazing children that are all doing work in the business field, in philanthropy. They've gone on and had, you know, amazing children. And that's my mum's legacy. My mum's legacy isn't that she got dementia and passed away in a hospital 2 weeks ago. My mum's legacy is her children. And it doesn't matter how many Lamborghinis or Ferraris you had, or how many houses you owned, or how much money you had in your bank account. Your true, in my opinion anyway, and obviously I'm not the all-seeing oracle, but in my opinion, your true measure of success is the legacy that you leave behind. So I'm very proud of that.
I think your legacy also lives on through other people, you know, obviously, and you know, I met your mother only a handful of times when I've been at your home with your dad and everything. And, you know, to me, I felt very welcome, you know. And, you know, I did think of you during that time. And the first thing that came to my mind is the times we were at your house and, you know, having a get together, having an eating. And the fact that people can just make you feel welcome at someone's house.
Yes.
That legacy kind of lives on, because you will always remember things like that when that person comes to mind. You know what I mean?
She had an amazing ability to, it was just by accident when she did pass, like, we were actually very lucky. Once again, I'm sure we're breaking a whole bunch of rules, but you know, it comes down to then who you know, what you know, rather than what you know. So we actually at the hospital know some of the senior executives, and they actually got my mum moved into a private room for us. So we were able to spend a little bit of time with her over that final week. And we just spent the whole time telling stories. You know, obviously my father, 50 years with my mum, that was a very difficult period for him. And it's going to be difficult. Like, you know, there's nothing really you can say to make it any easier for someone when they've been with someone for 50 years. Right? It's their best friend, their lover, their business partner, their confidant, their consigliere, their everything, right? And so, but we just shared these great stories, and the theme that kept on coming up, Christian, was she was a mother to all. Like, you know, we had some colourful friends growing up, especially Theo and I, and I'm sure you did too, and like their own parents. You know, weren't able to deal with them. And my mum and dad, even knowing the colourfulness of our friends, took them in, and they lived with me for 3 months. You know, like people that had gotten in trouble with the law, but my parents were like, it's just what you do. And it's what my mum said. Like, she just took them in, and she cooked for them, she cleaned for them, she took care of them as if they were their own children. You've come over. Theo's been there 1,000 times. Theo's wife, you know, Bree, she was like another mum to Bree. So, but she was like that to everyone. And it's amazing the beautiful stories people have been, you know, ringing me and telling me, or texting me, or posting on social media. So, and I think, you know, and someone go, oh, I've come back to work 2 weeks later. Like, you know, how can you do that? It's like, I'm seeing my mum's passing as a celebration of her life. And more than ever, am I inspired and motivated to do great things, whether they're in business. Look, the great thing is business has given me the opportunity to do all these other things, that going to Cambodia for the last 6 years and working in the orphanages and the Kokodas and all that sort of jazz. Like, business has allowed me to do that. So that's my vehicle. You know, like I made an interesting comment to somebody about the fact that, you know, I make the sort of money a doctor makes, or a specialist, you know, makes, right? And I'm not saying that to be arrogant, but I'm making the point that I don't have a university degree. I didn't have a clear path. So anyone that's young, that's watching this, or anyone who's in a corporate job and thinking, oh, should I have a crack? You know, like we've been talking about. Give it a crack. Like, it's like, you know, you don't need to have had a law degree or gone to Harvard Business School to have a go. Like, I've had a crack, I've failed. And from those failures, they have been also eye-opening experiences and epiphanies where I've learned what works, what doesn't work. And I didn't come from a family where, and as Theo knows very well, I didn't come from a family where my father's gone, like, here's $100 grand, go have a crack. It's like, you have a crack on your own. But if you fail, there will always be a bowl of pasta and a bed in Mooney Ponds for you to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So like, there's no harm in having a go, right? Like, what's the worst case scenario? I'll move back home. So I'm lucky that I have that. Not everybody has that, but I'm lucky I do have that, and I do have a very supportive family for my, entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial endeavors. But this COVID thing is just, in my opinion, has just highlighted the necessity for innovation and the necessity for people moving into the 21st century. Like, there was a lot of businesses, especially the Entourage, we've seen a lot of businesses that were doing extremely well, turning over millions of dollars, but they were still running the business like a 1950s operation or a 1970s operation. And
Let me ask this one question because I just heard you say something about doing all these, these great things, and I've seen them on Facebook and Instagram from following you. You have done a lot of charity work.
Yep.
I've seen you do several charity works. What makes you want to do that charity work? Where do you come from? Because people don't do it. I'll be honest with you. I've seen a lot of people, they work really hard, might have a lot of money, but they just don't do it.
Yeah.
But then I see people like yourself, and I've got other friends that actually go ahead and do it. And what triggers you to actually go, I really want to give something back. I really want to help these people. What was your experience?
I'm very lucky it started with my parents. So my father worked 7 days a week, but it was interesting. My father, and let me put it in context before I say this, guys, it's not a misogynistic or a racist thing. So let me keep in mind, my father came on a boat in 1956 with one shoe and a suitcase from Italy. But my father would always say, you should never judge a man by the color of his skin or what religion he is, but you should judge him by how hard he works. So growing up, my father would give we had Jehovah's Witness, Jewish, Muslim, Chinese, Vietnamese, Aussie, Italian, working at my dad's service stations, right? So like, my father didn't do the philanthropic work, but he always, supported local communities. I remember him, helping people like financially and physically by, helping them get a house and even to the point where it happened only recently. Someone tried to steal a bottle of alcohol from a store, and my dad caught the guy. Not physically, he's not in the position to physically tackle the guy, but he caught the guy, and he convinced him to go back and hand it back. And my dad said, "I'll go with you, and I know the owner of the place. I'll go with you. Hand the bottle back and apologize." And I'll stay with you and try and make sure and try and convince him not to call the police. But that's a life-changing experience. Like, I had that person as a father, like, every day for the last 34 years. It's pretty amazing shit. Like, most people wouldn't do that. My dad's, it could have been a junkie, it could have been someone who attacked him, but he's convinced somebody to go back and give back this bottle of whiskey that they stole from a bottle shop because my dad realized what they were doing. And it's like, and the owner did not call the police. He appreciated what my father had done. He took my father said, "Look, I've committed, this person could have ran off. Like, my father wouldn't have been able to catch him." So that was my father. Then my mother, she gave herself physically. So she helped the elderly community. She was, volunteer at our churches. She was a volunteer at all of our schools. We said it in the eulogy for anyone that might have logged on to the funeral that we live telecast, that we said at one stage she was doing the tuck shop, library, and on the Mother's Auxiliary at St. Bernard's, Ave Maria, and at St. Monica's, at 3 different schools all at one time. So that selflessness became part of our DNA. And then, adding that to what my core vision, mission, and values are, like the Andrew Morello vision and mission and values. One of my core values is freedom, adventure, family. So all of a sudden what I did is I took that selflessness and went, well, I still want to go and do fun things and do things that other people don't do. So I was able to merge those together. Have they been consuming at times? 100%. Have they also helped? I definitely haven't done it for this. And I think if anyone who does philanthropy for business and, to advance in business, it would be disappointing. And I don't think it will work out in the long term for them, but it has definitely helped. Like, obviously when I'm doing that philanthropic work, anyone who else is in the business sector that is doing it as well, it's automatically like a rite of
connection.
passage. Yeah, it's a connection and a rite of passage, effectively. That people go, oh, well, you know, because they know what's involved in it. Like, everyone can sit there and say, oh, I'm going to go do Kokoda to raise $286,000 for Indigenous education. But to actually go and do it, like, it's bad. Like, it's not, everyone's always asking, oh, how was it? I'm like, terrible. Like, it's not fun. It's not like, look, Cambodia is fun because we go there and yes, you know, you're working with the kids in the orphanage and so forth. And I get the pleasure of being surrounded by Geraldine Cox, Order of Australian Medal winner. She's an amazing Australian who's doing, you know, who's selflessly given 25, 30 years of her life to these children over there. But you know, Cambodia's reasonably fun. Like, yes, there are days, like you're in the sun and you're, you know, working with the kids, and like there's days where you think, geez, I don't know if you really want to be here. But Kokoda, it's like, it's not fun at all. Like, when you finish it, you like have this feeling of accomplishment. But like, while you're doing it, every single day, you like at least half a dozen times, doesn't matter how fit you are, you're thinking to yourself, why the F am I doing this? Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know. And you know what was beautiful? It was an amazing connection to Australia for me, understanding that our soldiers went and fought on this little strip of land, this little trail against the Japanese to stop them from invading Australia during World War II. Like, people don't realise it's actually and even in the US, which, you know, they consider themselves as the champions of military, that even the American military believe that battle between Japan and Australia on this little 147 kilometres through the jungle of Papua New Guinea was probably one of the greatest battles in the history of all war for thousands of years. So for them to even say that's a big thing, and they even agreed that if the Australians hadn't stopped the Japanese there, we would have a very different Australia today. Like, the reality is Australia they'd already tried to invade Australia. This is a lot of history that Australians don't actually know about, especially young Australians, which is disappointing. But the Japanese had already tried to invade Australia up in up in Darwin, and also for those who do live in Sydney, where I preside most of the time now, a torpedo had hit Bondi Beach. There was torpedoes that were hit by these mini subs in the harbour, but people don't even know this history. And they had already gone and printed. Australian Japanese currency. So if you don't believe me, you can Google it and you can have a look at it. And if you can get your hands on some of it, it's worth a fortune, obviously, for collector's items now. But being able to connect to those roots and to those foundations, I think has helped me in business, has helped me in life, has helped me become a better person, and has helped me have a better understanding. Like, now when, you know, I read history, I understand history better, which, in order to not repeat history, it's important to understand and to really study it.
Mate, you know, we've had a very good run in this country and most of the developed world.
I thought you were talking about you and I, like you, me, and Christian. Like, we've had a very good run. I think we have indeed. Correct.
We've had a great run, but you know, I think, you know, obviously got bailed out. The GFC should have been bigger than it was.
Yes.
But still, a lot of people did get hit there.
Yes.
Since then, I've seen you speak often about recession-proofing your business. We worked very, very hard on doing that in ours because I was convinced that one was coming. I didn't think it would come in this form. What are you seeing within the Entourage community around the way people are reacting, and obviously being more of a one-sided recession? It is unique.
Yeah.
And what do you think, you know, what's your take on how people are handling it, and maybe the best ways or the best things the businesses should be doing?
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to exactly go down this path today, but I did put together just a half a dozen points, which I thought would be useful. And obviously, if anyone wants further information, they can reach out to me. Theo can put my email up on the post and so forth. So you can just email me directly if you want to have a further chat. But I've come up with what we call a sort of a 6-point plan to, you know, to combat COVID effectively, right? So, like, from a business point of view, not from a medical point of view, from a business point of view. So I'll go through the 6, and then if you want to extrapolate, or go through one by one. If you boys want to extrapolate on it, feel free to as well. So number 1 is actually getting an understanding and having a cash flow forecast. So probably from a business point of view, the biggest mistake that most business owners have and make is the fact that they're not, you know, and I was one of these people. They're not, you know, accounting literate. They're not money literate. They're just, what they do is they love helping, in your case, in your guys' case, they love helping people systemize and automate, using cloud technology, with their business. They love doing that. But then it's like, if I asked them what was the profitability on that job that they did for that, that company up in Sydney, what was the profitability on that job they did on that company in Camberwell in Melbourne, they probably would have known. Like, I'm not saying you guys, but most people don't know. And I was one of those people. Like, someone would go to me, oh, what's your net profit before tax? And I'm like, or after tax or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I just know that there's enough money to pay the wages and the bills, and it's great. And, and it lets me go and keep going. And I never really stopped. And then, the GFC was one of the things that made me stop for a minute. So I'm glad that happened. And then with the Entourage, very openly and transparently, and Jack and I wear our heart on our sleeves, we went through a really challenging experience. You guys were in the RTO space as well. So, like we lost millions of dollars, and we were given the advice to go into bankruptcy. But Jack and I looked at each other and went, nah, let's give it a crack. Let's give it a crack. What have we got? We've lost everything in the business. Yeah, so we might as well give it a go. So we just kept on going, and we have traded out of, that bad position we're in. And now we're in this amazing position, and the business is better than it's ever been before. So it was those lessons that we learned. But one of the biggest takeaways was that we started getting better around forecasting and having a cash flow forecast. And there's a thing called a cash floor. So understanding, how much runway do we need each month to have and putting that money away and becoming more money conscious about where the money's going and the best way for that to be. So number one is that, have a cash flow forecast. Number two is focus on the bandwidth of marketing, sales, and other revenue generating activities. So understanding that, marketing and sales. Like right now, I know people aren't going to see this before tomorrow, but tomorrow we've got a online event. We should have somewhere between 2,000 or 3,000 people. We've got 6,000 to 7,000 registered. We should have 2,000 to 3,000 people logging on for an event called Momentum tomorrow, and it is solely marketing and sales driven. So just understanding that, what used to work for you pre-COVID or pre-GFC or is not necessarily going to work now. So understanding that it's important to A/B test your marketing, understanding that it's really important to bed down your sales process, which has become first and foremost one of the major things. And we have this program and this system at the Entourage called the 8 Steps to Sales Mastery. And the whole idea of it is that you take that and then you go and plug that into your business, and that should create a system and a process that everyone, including the lowest common denominator or the weakest link, I know it's not nice to say, but there is always a weakest link within a sales team or within a business, can plug straight back into that process. The next one is diversify revenue streams. So obviously, and an example, I assume a lot of people of your viewership is from Melbourne. So Shane Dilly is a good friend of mine. Shane obviously has Maha. He's an award-winning chef himself, and he's got an award-winning business. It's won a number of awards in the food and beverage space. He's gone and pivoted into this Providor business.
We got that last week for my birthday.
There you go. So, and right now people are just really missing having a premium experience. And Father's Day was on as well. And they had a Father's Day special. Like, here's Shane Dilly, who has always been in premium fine dining, top-end dining experiences, going, actually, why can't we provide a fine dining or a top-end world-class eatery experience at home? And so Shane's a good friend. He's somebody who's just gone, I need to diversify my revenue streams. And I had a really good chat with him the other week, and I said, when we go back to some sort of normality, who knows what that's going to look like or when it's going to happen, especially in Melbourne. But when we do go back, are you still going to do this? And he's like 100%. Like, he's like, I had just tapped into a whole nother revenue stream and a whole nother market. He wasn't saying it in more of a Machiavellian, I'm greedy sort of way. He was saying it as in like, now I can actually give people a world-class experience at
exactly home. And it won't cannibalize their business. It's like the conversation of retail versus e-commerce. Retail, by all opinions of people that matter that I've listened to in the last couple of months, the retail store will be the experience.
Yeah,
it won't be there for revenue generating purposes. It'll be there for people to go and connect with that brand. And I feel like that's where hospitality will be going.
100%. And people, look, we're human beings, so at some point we are always going to go back to
Yes.
having that, that experience, right?
Yeah.
Number 4 was seek advice and be in regular contact with coaches, mentors, business advisors. So there's a system I often preach about from stage, which is called having an A team. So, like, to give you an idea, this afternoon I've got a session with my personal financial advisor. It's somebody Daniel Carini, which you know very well as well, Theo. So I touch base with him. We have now a Zoom. It used to be a coffee or a lunch or a dinner every 3 months. So, like, I'm leaning into those resources. If you have accountants, financial advisors, if you are a member of Entourage or a business education company, like, more than ever is the time to be leaning into those resources and leaning into the advice that you can get, because right now a mistake is very expensive. So if you're about to go and spend X amount of dollars on some marketing strategy, you should be speaking to a marketing expert. Whether you're going to go and do the clicks and the pay-per-clicks yourself, and you're going to go do your SEO yourself, and I'm not saying you can or can't do that. All I'm saying is, before you go and execute on a strategy, make sure you speak to the right people. And for the sake of a couple of grand of getting some great advice, it might save you 20 and make you 100 later on. So this is something that's become really, really important with a lot of our premium clients as well, and understanding that, a mistake right now is very expensive. It's more expensive than it's ever been to make a mistake. Manage, minimize, and mitigate unnecessary expenses. So one of the main things I came up with under this banner was renegotiating with your suppliers. Like, it's just a reality, right? So, like, I've gone back to all of our suppliers. Our business is in a good position, but I've been proactive rather than reactive. And I've gone and renegotiated. It's a perfect time, to a point where I've renegotiated a $500,000 lease down to nearly 300 grand. That's 200 grand straight to your bottom line, and allows you then to keep everyone employed. It allows you to grow the business. Like, we just put on 9 new staff during COVID, 9 new staff. So, the reality is that, we're in a growth phase. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be focusing on and also keeping an eye on reducing those expenses, renegotiating some of those expenses, and
putting the money where it counts.
100%, and getting what I like to call a more effective and more efficient dollar spent. That's what it's all about. So, like, I've got $1 to spend. I don't want to make $1.20 back. I want to make $2 back. I want to make $3 back. And you can do that still ethically, morally. You can do that with heart still. And, it's funny, you're seeing in the manufacturing industry now, I've got a number of businesses that we advise at the Entourage that are in, products, some sort of product. And now they've, shifted everything to online, and they're doing really, really well. But I've told them to go back and renegotiate their suppliers. And they're like, oh, mate, they're never going to do that. That price that you're recommending, that you're asking me to go ask them for, is Chinese manufacturing prices. And I said to them, what does it cost you to go and ask the question? They've gone and asked the question. They've called me and gone, oh, Morello, you're fucking amazing. I said, what do you mean? They're like, he's gone and met the quote that I got from China, because right now, all of a sudden,
of course,
there's been a lot of, especially people in manufacturing, that have done really well over the last 10 years, because they have positioned themselves as better quality. You pay for Australian made, but you pay an Australian price. All of a sudden, competition has made people be competitive. And so obviously they're not doing it for under cost price. So they're still making money, but all of a sudden that quote that you got from the Chinese guy is looking not as bad as having no business at all. And the last one I've got here is get creative with your product or delivery or service delivery. So a lot of people that are solely in product have now moved into service and product. A lot of people that were in service have now found complementary opportunities to be able to enhance their customer experience using products as well. So they're very 6 simple terms and really simple sort of banners. If anyone wants more information on those, they can email me directly. But the whole idea of it is it's just quick, easy 6 steps that should ideally, 1, stop you from slipping into your business, slipping into a recession, but 2, allow you to then not only survive but mainly thrive. And I think there's a lot of opportunities in the market right now, more than you guys would see it, especially in the tech space. But all of a sudden now people realize they need a CRM. Like, how many years have you been telling them, like, to go and get their shit together and get their tech right and all that right? And they just like, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, I don't really need it. Oh, it's not relative to my business. All of a sudden, if you don't have a database that you can actually trawl through and some sort of a nurture sequence that you've got set up, your business will be in strife.
Well, it's the thing. Customers expect so much these days, right? So you need to have something that enables you to provide that and meet those expectations, surpass those expectations. So look, it's, the old rule that the market is the market is the market. It always is the final say, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? So I think the market's really come to that understanding now, and I guess all that we can do is to your point, whether we follow the 6 steps or obviously we do more than those, but make yourself ready and also be top of mind so that when they are making that decision, you're thought of.
Yeah, there's a real opportunity as well to position yourself as the champions right now, which you guys are doing by doing these sorts of things.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't cost a lot to do to have a basic setup. Like, you guys do a little bit more from a production point of view, and you've got your team assisting. But like, even when somebody goes, "Oh, I'm a 1 or 2 man show," like, I can't go and get recording gear or getting this right or get this right. And like, mate, it doesn't cost anything to have Zoom, or cost you very little to have a Zoom account, for somebody else to have a Zoom account, and then for you to
do it
log
on your phone.
Correct. It
do
doesn't,
the whole
and,
thing on your
and you can broadcast that to all of your Facebook followers, broadcast it to your CRM, put it on a link where then you can send
YouTube.
to your YouTube, but then send it to your database and say, "Hi guys, I know you're going through a battle right now, but we had this great interview with this crazy guy Morello the other day. I reckon you should have a listen to it. He's come up with 6 really good ideas to help you get out of COVID." Bang. Click, all of a sudden. Like, you don't need to have a full production team and have a lighting system. And
Morello's COVID tips.
Morello's COVID tips. Yes. Make sure you wear your mask.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get into that, Christian, by the way. Like, I've got a whole theory on this thing, but I'm not even going to go down that path right now.
We don't have enough.
I love masks.
Enough time.
I've been wearing masks for a very long time, as you probably know.
I know, but I'm just like, God. And poor Victorian, and look, I am a business owner in Victoria and a property owner in Victoria, so I know this more than ever. But what a disaster! That's all I'm going to say. It's like we have spent, on average, Alan Jones did a really good piece the other day. We've spent $1 billion per life. That's what we've spent. So I'm not saying that any Australian life has a price tag on it, but $1 billion is a lot. Is definitely a lot. So I'm just like. It's going to be interesting, and I feel really bad for Victorian business. But once again, like, Shane's killing it. I'm not speaking out of school. Like, I think people, he's got ads on TV now. Like, if I'd said to him 12 months ago, "You're going to have ads on TV promoting in-home food delivery," he would have said, "You're off your head."
Well, I'd suggest those ads on TV are a waste of money. That's another conversation.
Yeah, well,
no, mate, completely. And I don't think we're definitely not going to let this get political. But I think that it's very interesting times, and I think that the theme of today around adapt or die and remaining relevant is more relevant than it ever has been.
Yes.
Christian, have you got a lightning round prepared?
Yes, we
lightning
do.
round.
So we've got a lightning round here. Just need to answer whatever comes.
Do I press my buzzer like this as well? Like,
You're probably the best candidate for a lightning round.
I apologize in advance for anything I say that I shouldn't say. I apologize in advance. There we go.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I was born ready, Christian. You know
that. One thing you can't live without.
Wine.
Perfect. What's your favorite type of wine?
Oh, Shiraz for sure. Yeah, McLaren Vale, Red Dirt Shiraz.
Big ballsy,
big bold, dark, deep, and dirty. You remember that? Dark, deep, and dirty.
Favorite band or artist?
Frank Sinatra. I grew up with him. I'm still a romantic. I was listening to him the other day. My mum and I listened to it growing up.
Yeah, awesome. Entrepreneur you most admire?
Mark Burris, I've got to say that. I think, I spent the last 10 years of my life with him. We're still very good friends. He's controversial at times, but he works hard on his sleeve. And, and I learned a lot from him. I owe a lot to him. And he's introduced me to the Jerry Harveys and the John McGraths and all of the other billionaires that I know. So obviously he...
Pro love. Okay, I can see it. Okay, iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
On a scale 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
I reckon I'm a 9. Theo would agree I'm a 9.
It's similar to one other guest that we had on, that the scale tips as he drinks each glass.
Yeah, probably that's probably the truth. Yeah. Don't tell me anything just before I go and meet the boys for a drink.
What do you do for fun?
Go to the beach on the Pisces, go in the water. Bondi, as you guys have both been to my house in Bondi, my old place in Bondi. I lived on the beach there, so always the beach.
What was the last CD you bought?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what it was? It was what was it called? The one with the alien? It's with all of the dance songs. What was it called?
What was that?
Two
The
tribes.
alien. Anthems. No, the anthems. What was it called?
Oh shit! No, I don't know.
What's it called? You know, you do know, bro.
It's the trance one.
No, is it the trance one?
Yeah, I think
With
so. Or Ministry of Sound. You're talking
Ministry,
about
or Ministry of Sound, but there was another one. It had an orange symbol, and it came out every year.
high energy.
I don't know. It had like 100 songs and there was multiple CDs. Yeah.
We'll flash the
Flash
the
it up.
thing
Find
screen
it.
after.
Find the thing with
post-production.
the alien.
Yeah.
Like that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
What is the last CD you bought? Sorry,
I just asked him that too.
Ask that, mate. Are you drinking wine or am I drinking wine? Who's drinking the wine, Christian?
I'm laughing because all I can see is this.
You're gonna freeze frame
What was the
that.
last movie you saw?
Last movie I saw in the cinemas, or can I be naughty and say that I plexed something? Because I watched the new Mulan. And it's.
I wanted to watch that. Yes. Good.
You need to watch it, whether you're a child or not. You need to watch the new Mulan. That's my recommendation. The last movie I watched and it was absolutely amazing.
You see the trailer for the new De Niro film?
Oh no, not the new De Niro film. No, I haven't. All right, I saw for the new Batman. That looks absolutely amazing as well. But yeah,
Texting or talking?
Talking, as you guys know.
If he answers.
Nickname your parents used to call you?
Cattivo, which means naughty in Italian. Naughty boy.
Well suited. What's your favorite holiday destination?
I've been to Monaco a couple of times. So if I could go back to Monaco next year for the Grand Prix, that would be absolutely perfect. So I'm hoping that they're going to put that on. Otherwise, it will be the year after.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
10. Theo has seen me do some amazing things.
No.
They might not be legal, but I've done some amazing.
No.
Theo's holding on to the. Like, what are you doing, bro? I'm like, bro, don't worry, I got this sorted. So.
Okay, so name one of the 7 dwarfs.
Well, I was Sarge, but I think that was I played him in my grade 6, which was the head dwarf. But I don't think that's his name in the Disney movie. But the play adaptation, the head dwarf they call Sarge, and I played Sarge. So there's a photo of it somewhere, Theo. I'll have to find
Technicality.
What's your middle name?
Marcello.
So say a word in Spanish.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
And make a high-pitched sound. You blocked the internet. Awesome.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, boys. We do need to do it properly with the right wine and the cheese and everything as well.
Yes.
So
Well, actually, we've got a new theme coming up. So when the next time we get you on, it'll be slightly different branding, and it'll be on a Friday evening.
okay, and we'll do it in person.
In person, 100%.
100%.
I'll be back in Melbourne in a few weeks' time, so start preparing yourself.
Very good.
Okay. Awesome.
Love
Thank
you,
you so
gents.
much, mate. Appreciate it. Love you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to watch more episodes as I launch. Don't forget to share with your friends and click here to watch more videos.